Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Audrey Jacobs, and I'm the director of a project called the Israel Startup Nation Series. And we are very thrilled today to be here at Qualcomm and be speaking with you and bringing you today Yossi Vardi, who is a renowned serial entrepreneur and investor and is known as the Godfather of Israeli high tech. Today, we are here in partnership with the Startup Circle, who you'll hear briefly from today a little bit. But I just want to briefly start off by saying a little bit about the Israel Startup Nation series. It's a project that came out of a conversation with the authors of the book Startup Nation, The Miracle of Israel's Economic Miracle, Dan Senior and Saul Singer. And I had met with them at a conference in New York with the CEOs of and the extraordinary entrepreneurs from Israel telling their story. And I said, you know, why isn't this happening across the country? Why isn't this happening in my community in San Diego, which is the #3 market in high tech and also one of the leading in the market in terms of biotech and life science technology. And of course with our military and our incredible universities and with Qualcomm here, which has a 20-year history with Israel. So we decided to create an ongoing series where we're going to be looking for ways to engage and learn from Israel as a global leader in innovation and entrepreneurship, which you'll learn a little bit more today. So we just started this past fall, and this is our 5th event where we're bringing out incredible people like Yossi Vardi of this caliber. And today we want to have the opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about Israel and why Israel is known as a startup nation. What can we learn from their culture of innovation? And we really want to engage you and invite you to have a dialogue, and this is why we have 2 microphones here today. I'm going to be introducing a few folks. I first want to acknowledge and thank the co-chairs of this initiative, Jeremy Glazer and Jeff Belk, and you'll hear from Jeff in a few minutes. And next, I want to introduce Robert Reyes, who is the director of Startup Circle, who's going to briefly tell you a little bit what he does, and he is our partner today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank Qualcomm for hosting us for lunch today.
So, welcome. Hi, I'm Robert Reyes, and I'm, as Audrey was mentioning, I'm the instigator of Startup Circle, one of the instigators. I see a lot of familiar faces that folks are part of our community and that have joined us, so I'm, again, pretty honored and happy to see you again, Josie, to this lunch. I got to hear a little bit of your speech last night at UCSD, so really, what you talked about last night, I can tell you, extremely connects with what the mission of Startup Circle and the San Diego ecosystem overall. And I'll just, again, I don't have a lot of time, so I'll get through this real fast. But again, what is Startup Circle for those folks that have never heard of our organization in town? We talk about growth through collaboration. And one of the things that you can see is that we started in 2007. We've focused on San Diego startups. And now we got about 5,000 entrepreneurs within our midst. And we've been having a lot of fun through this journey. One of the things I want to show you here is that we first were known as San Diego Young Entrepreneurs. And as I always mention in the meetings, we kind of get a little older. And a lot of folks were asking, well, how young you have to be a member? And so we evolved to kind of what we are today. And just what I wanted to highlight with this slide is that we've worked with government. We've definitely engaged the new mayor. We had engaged with the prior mayor. We've done different things with also across border. One of the things that I really would like to hear from you as well, as you talk about, we really look at San Diego not being the cul-de-sac of the U.S., but we see it as being as a launch pad also for our interaction, what's going on in Tijuana, and the innovation that's happening down there. And again, we're really excited to all the things that we've seen that are happening over there. And also we have a number of collaborations that have happened throughout this year. And one that we're extremely excited about is Plug and Play Tech Center that has come down from the Bay Area to also attract funding and support. And again, what we are really excited to be partners with Startup Nation and what is happening here today. Definitely what I see, what innovation, technology, and collaboration that has been shown in Israel, we definitely like to learn a lot from that and see the experiences that you've seen to actually evolve that community. And that's kind of what we're actively doing here. And just getting close to our wrap up, here's the goals that Startup Circle Circle is thrown out for us as a community and for other members to come in. Just in summary, one of the things we want to do as part of our community, create $1 billion of valuation growth of the companies that we're involved with. Also, to be part of, create 5 hubs that can generate $100 million of investment for the startups in San Diego. And also being really closely involved with the universities. We already have relationships with San Diego State, UCSD, but really continue to foster and support entrepreneurs within those areas to come out and create companies and also have a bogey for them to actually create revenue for this area. And last but not least, also to invite startups and companies from outside the U.S. to come in and set up in San Diego and create some value here. So with that, one thing that I did wanted to share with you our way, and then I'll kind of go over to hear you, is that we're about collaboration. We believe collaboration unlocks innovation, and I won't talk about how we're going about that. We're about a culture of giving back as a for-profit community. So we have some very specific things we do around that, and we have some research-based approach to actually doing that. And this is my last slide that I wanted just to give you as a backdrop for when you get up here and talk about. We went out and surveyed our community, and we asked them about what was their thought around the San Diego community, how they saw it. And as you can see in the Google Maps, when they pull out the word that is most used in describing this community, what we find here is you see that growing is a big one, innovative, there's potential. Of course, there's needs, there's promising. But the point that I hope that you've seen, I know that you've been touring since you landed, 24 hours ago or so. There's a lot of excitement in San Diego. We're really looking at building our community even further from all the players already doing some great work. And I look forward to hearing your story. And the last piece that I can tell, I'd like to hear from you also, how in Israel you guys are involving junior high and high school students. Right now we're kicking off programs with that to actually get them into thinking about starting businesses. And I know you were at High Tech High, and we just kicked out a program with them last week around that. So with that, that's all I have. I welcome all the Startup Circle members. Welcome to this event. And again, we're thankful to Startup Nation for allowing us to partner with them in this great series. So thank you.
So as Robert mentioned, as part of the Israel Startup Nation series, when we bring someone like Yossi Vardi to San Diego, Yossi's very tired because he got here yesterday afternoon and we go non-stop. Our goal is to go out and reach multiple universities and high schools and different members of the community with Israel's story. So last night we had the honor of being at UCSD speaking to the engineering and the business school students and graduates and alumni. And then as Robert mentioned this morning, we had the honor of meeting with Gary Jacobs, who's the founder of High Tech High, and there are 11 schools in San Diego. And then after Yossi's visit with you today, we're going to be going back so that he can teach a class. So again, trying to engage and educate and share the entire community with the spirit of Israel's innovation and entrepreneurial success. So the next person I'd like to have give a few words is the Deputy Consul General of Israel, Dr. Uri Resnick. We're very honored to have him here today to share a few words on behalf of the country of Israel to welcome you and to have you engage in this conversation. Dr. Resnick.
Icons of the information age, especially honoring and here to listen to one of the iconic figures of Israel's startup nation story and high-tech industry. I think normally I would say that thinking about and reflecting on Israel's development over the recent decades, I would probably use the word miraculous. But given the current context, it probably makes more sense to describe it as mirabilis, which is, of course, Latin for the same thing, and the firm that Mr. Vardi was involved in. Israel's story really is remarkable. 65 years, we're celebrating our 65th Independence Day coming up in the coming months. And from a country which was largely dependent on agricultural produce, known for its oranges in the 1950s, we've really reached a state where we're remarkably known as a world leader, or among world leaders in high technology. Country of about 7 million people, the size of New Jersey, and we are consistently ranked as on many different indices of competitiveness and innovation in terms of research and development per capita, number of startups per capita, even absolute number of startups, in terms of the number of companies, Israeli companies listed on the NASDAQ index, and so many other indices. We really are a success story when it comes to innovation and high tech. And it spans all fields. We have Israeli innovations that are known from flash disks and from innovative telecommunications technologies to the field of agro-industries, medicine, capsule endoscopy, photovoltaics, really in so many different fields. The list goes on of Israeli innovations that really affect all of our lives and are part of the world as we know it. And I would say that aside from this known aspect of Israel as a place of ingenuity and innovation, it's also remarkably resilient. Israel is a very strong, pluralistic, liberal democracy in a very unstable region, and the fact is that all of these successes in these different industries have been registered in an exceptionally difficult geopolitical or geostrategic environment. And this speaks to the robustness and resilience of Israel's high technology sector and in general of Israel's economy and its academic establishment. So when you're thinking about Israel and doing business with Israel and being involved in venture capital investments in Israel and startup companies, you're talking about one of the world leaders in innovation and creativity, but also a proven place to invest in a secure and robust corporate environment. So I'm sure that this is going to prove to be a fascinating lecture, and I invite all of you to engage and become part of this startup nation story, which is just beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Resnick. I now have the pleasure of introducing Jeffrey Belk, who's going to be introducing Yossi Vardi, and he'll tell you his connection to Qualcomm and to Israel. And I promise you, after all of our dry introductions, Yossi will keep you entertained. He was so funny last night. Everybody kept telling him, this felt like stand-up. And so I told him today, you know, this is Qualcomm. You have to be more serious here, and you can't be as funny. And so I think with that, you're guaranteed to have a very entertaining lecture today. But first, I want to welcome my co-chair of the Israel Startup Nation Series, Jeffrey Belk. He's going to tell you a little bit about why he got involved, his connection, and introduce our featured speaker, Yossi. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. As someone who spent 14 years at Qualcomm and knowing that Mobile World Congress is happening in Barcelona this week, it's very good to see there's actually some people here from Qualcomm actually staying in San Diego and working. First of all, I'd like to thank Qualcomm for the facility and hosting the event today. Also, Audrey Jacobs for her tireless organization of this and her perpetual flogging of everybody involved. And of course to Yossi, who has been, I'm sure, run ragged by now and is hopefully will actually come back to San Diego after this. So I guess a bit of my connection to Israel. In my first 45 years, I never made it to Israel. The last couple of that, Ayal, where's Ayal? He's out, should be here somewhere, who runs Qualcomm Israel, kept on trying to get me to go, but things always cropped up. Once I was ticketed and I was about to go and I shattered my arm in 5 places and had a big metal contraption, had to cancel that. But then I left Qualcomm and I ended up advising and investing in a Israeli company run by the last gentleman here, John Medved, who actually lassoed me to Audrey for this event, or for Startup Nation. And basically it got me out to Israel several times as an investor, seeing John's company, which was this little company, this place called Beit Shemesh, over a strip mall. And for the first time, I kind of witnessed an Israeli startup in action. You know, a very diverse both linguistically, culturally, religiously, group of engineers, all focused, moving extremely, extremely quickly, limited resources, and really without any real barriers to what they thought they could achieve. And, Ringo was an interesting case. It started out as a video ringtone company, actually is a public company now, and both in the application space and also in the intellectual property space. So again, the ability to move left and right very quickly is intrinsic in the Israeli model. So I guess one other thing that, thinking about Israel and growth of technology in Israel, there's a common attribute to Israel and San Diego that maybe you haven't thought of. Is San Diego is kind of interesting geographically in my view. I've been involved in the tech community here for almost 30 years, and more than other places that I've seen, even more than the Valley in some ways, there's a very unique collaborative spirit in San Diego, and I think part of that is due to the fact that everyone moves here and stays. And there's an interesting, the geographic piece is we have the Pacific Ocean to the west, we have the border to the south, we have the desert to the east, and we have, the Camp Pendleton and the mountains to the north. So it kind of makes us sort of, I won't say insular, but creates some interesting dynamics. And I think in Israel's case, there may be some interesting geographic neighbors that cause some of the same dynamics. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Yossi, who's been introduced again and again. Should I do she wanted me to do the long version. Any case, Yossi has been involved in the tech world and venture capital world for over 40 years in Israel. I've had the honor of meeting him several times at different events around the world. You will find him to be a very entertaining and provocative speaker, and he is walking up here to prevent me from saying anything else. So enjoy listening to Yossi. And again, Yossi, thank you so much for your visiting San Diego and for your tireless efforts in the last couple of days.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Qualcomm, for facilitating this wonderful gathering. Thank you, Audrey, for the nice itinerary you prepared for me. There is a difference in culture between Israel and America. Audrey told me that I should come to San Diego because she will arrange for me the royal treatment. Okay, we have different views. What is royal treatment, Audrey? Sounds to me more like in Israel we call it slave driving, like running all over the place. I had a diet yesterday of almond covered with chocolate, which Audrey, Hamantash, okay. No, it was really very, very nice. I would like also to thank Startup Circle, the Startup Nation, and all the good people which enable this gathering. I also would like to introduce my partner to this trip, Rami Lipman. Rami, stand up. Rami is an accomplished serial entrepreneur, serial investor in his own merits. I don't know how much I can talk about your investments, but he found the real secret because he invested in some algo trading company, and I don't know what they are doing, but I heard that their employees are signed on NDA for 25 years or something like this. So they really cracked the secret, but he's also doing some fun things in mobile. I gave yesterday a talk which extracted a lot of laughter from the audience. I was serious, but probably because of my accent, people kept laughing all the time. So Audrey told me today that I shouldn't be funny. So I'm going to deliver a very dry talk with a lot of statistics, which I will invent on the spot because I have no idea what are the true statistics, but you will not be able to make the difference anyhow. So this is what we are up to. In October, I chaired a conference called the DLD in Israel, which done Dan, are you here?
No, he went back upstairs.
Okay. Dan from Qualcomm attended the conference. In the conference, we had side events which were events created by Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, IBM, and other. And I would like to tell you about two of the events. The Amazon event, they asked that we will prepare for them a place of 360 seats. We opened the registration on the evening of one of the days. In the morning, the Amazon people came to see how well they are doing in the registration. Between the evening and the morning, they had 1,000 people registered to the event. I got an email, which I have it here on my phone. They wrote to me, "Let us tell you, you got us really into panic." So 1,000 people registered to the event. A lady who is doing reach-out events with developers from Amazon came from London. She said they had an event in London, very successful, with 300 developers. Facebook have done an event for game developers, and they asked for a room for 200 people. They told me, why won't you invite few of the key developers to the event? I sent an email to 35 developers, and I told them, please forward this event to one of two of your best developer friends. After 4 hours, there were 500 people registered to the event. And this is a country of 7.8 million people, which about 3 million people in the labor force, 10% are engaged in the high tech, so we are talking about a pool of 300,000 people. So I'm telling it to you to give you an indication of the great, it's Raphael over there, why don't you say, hi Raphael, good to see you. It's nice to recognize some faces, you know, when you are coming 7,000 miles away from your home country, or 10,000 miles. What is the distance between Israel and San Diego? A lot. That's a correct, accurate answer. I'm giving these stories just to give you an indication of the amount of energy and drive which exists within the developers community. I'll give you just another anecdote. 9 years ago, I helped to create a hangout place for the young developers in Israel. It's called the Garage Geek. It was initiated by a young guy by the name of Tzvika Netter. He said, we don't have any place to meet. We should have some kind of place. They took an old storage hangar for wood. They turned it into a hangout place for developers. It's probably the most dilapidated hangout place you can see on the globe. Nevertheless, on the Facebook list of members of this place, there are today about 6,000 people. And in this little hole in the wall, we had so far visiting, starting with Sergey Brin and Jimmy Wales and Max Levchin and Tim Armstrong and Ariana Huffington, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Marissa Mayer, everybody is coming to meet these Israeli developers. What is the reason why all of it happened in such an intensity, and why most of the major American companies are coming to Israel and creating a base there? The former speaker, Mr. Belk, mentioned the Army. This is definitely one of the reasons. The Army give an opportunity to young people to assume responsibility, which usually you get in a regular established company only when you become incompetent and you are being promoted to a managerial job. In Israel, a kid who is 22 years old can get responsibility for a project of tens of millions of dollars. You mentioned given imaging. Given imaging is this pill which you swallow in order to eliminate colonoscopy. This pill was a spin-off from a Vision missile. They took all the electronics and the logic, etc., and put it in a small capsule. You swallow it, and it has a light, and it sends a camera picture of your inner system. Actually, these guys really put a whole new meaning into the phrase, the light at the end of the tunnel. I apologize, you told me not to be funny, but what can I do? It's stronger than me, you know. And this is part of the military contribution. There are the universities. You know that Mr. Bloomberg now is creating a technological hub in New York. You heard about New York. You know, it's not as active as San Diego, but it has a future. And he is very, very jealous of the excitement of high-tech in the West Coast. He brought Cornell, and Cornell joined with the Technion, creating a whole new center in New York. And for us, it's really a very good feeling to see that the Technion is being asked to provide some additional added value to this complex. And the Technion actually was the place where the high-tech industry started as a spin-off of academic and military. So the place is very, very active. If you look on the maps of American companies, you will see most of the large companies active in Israel. We should start with Qualcomm, which is going to celebrate its 20th year in May. They employ 450 people. It's very highly regarded. The current guy who is running it, Mr. Bar David, and the future gentleman who is running it, Mr. Maimon, are here. Can you please stand? Are you here, Eyal? Pardon? Stand up. And Arik, also please stand up. So these two gentlemen are running a Qualcomm operation in Israel. Qualcomm have done 3 acquisitions in recent years, but they are not alone. You start with Intel. Anybody heard about Intel? Intel has in Israel 8,500 people. Audrey claimed that 12,000, but every number I say, she multiple by 1.5 times. I said I invested in 80 companies. She introduced me yesterday as investing in 120 companies. You know, this is the American understatement, you know. Intel invested in 64 Israeli startups. IBM has 2,200 employees. They invested in 11 Israeli companies. Cisco has about 1,000 employees. They invested, both actually, 10 companies. Motorola is in Israel. They used to be 4,400. Now, after the split, etc., they went a little bit down, but they still have a meaningful business in Israel. Computer Associates, Microsoft has a development center. Google has 2 development centers. Yahoo, America Online, eBay has bought 3 companies in Israel, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And the reason why they come and do it is because of the very unique character of the Israeli startup scene, you will find people which are very engaged, very loyal. They wake every morning going to some kind of a war with the competition. They are very dedicated. Of course, they know better what is good to the company, better than the CEO and better than everybody else. I told yesterday, who was in my talk yesterday? Please raise your hand. So it seems that I can quite safely recycle most of my jokes, because the problem that my memory is not as it used to is not as good as it used to be, so I don't remember which jokes I told yesterday and which not. Nevertheless, I told about Daddy Perlmutter, one of the 5 guys who are running Intel, who always tell the story that in the United States, when he goes to a meeting with his employees, he tells them what to do, and they go and do it. In Israel, he has to spend the first 20 minutes on the topic why he is the guy who tells them what to do, while they know better what he should know. So everybody is a stakeholder, everybody feels committed. The people are nimble, they are quick, they are full of energy. There are some other merits to a small society with a joint feeling of paranoia, and this is the fact that people will collaborate even with their competitor, the country, because the country is small, and you know that you have to behave because your today competitor will be your boss tomorrow in the reserve, and his mother will be the teacher of your kids. And you cannot hide, you cannot disappear, everything is transparent, and this creates a very strong joint feeling. I don't remember, one of the CEOs of the big companies said that he was very impressed when he met with his people when they discuss issues of the company, how strong and how profound was the issue of what is good for the company and what is good for the country and what is good for the industry over and above the immediate interest of the individual. So you have this feeling, strong feeling of joint destiny. And this is something which works very well for the large companies, and top management like it. I have to admit that not always it works well with the middle management. You know, this is a different issue, because the Israelis are very opinionated and they know better. They claim that they know better because all of us know that they really know better. If you don't believe me, come and live to Israel and you will get this sense that you know better. So we see a very strong affinity between the US industry and between the Israeli startup scene. This tendency, I think, will just continue to grow. I want to tell you 2 stories from my own experience. I will tell you about 2 companies. First of all, I have to tell you I invested so far at about 80 internet startups. I don't know even if to call them startups. Some of them were small, 1 or 2 or 3 people. I've done some 20 exits, which were very nice, but I also had 28 failures, which is part of the game, and also it was my contribution to increase the morale in the country, because every time that somebody failed, the other guys are really very happy. I don't know why, but this is part of the ethnic culture. And also I had a lot of mishaps, like very big deals which came to my table, and I just poo-pooed them and send them away. But I will not focus on my failures and my mishap. I want to share with you two stories of my exits, which unfortunately not represent the whole thing, but it will give you some sense on the way things are done. I will start with the second one. I invested 3 years ago in two brothers, Ron and Eyal Gura. They had some idea in the topic, in the space of joint buying. If you want to buy a gift in the workplace and 8 people have to chip in, you call it, to buy together, they created some very nice application. They showed it to eBay at the first months of the existence of the company. eBay told them, this is very nice. We will give you certain amount of money provided that you don't show it to anybody until Christmas. So eBay gave them the money, so they didn't have to go and raise a lot of capital. After 14 months, eBay bought the company, and they turned it into eBay Innovation Center in Israel. John Donahoe, the president of eBay, was in Israel, and he said that this is a very strategic facility for eBay. I don't know if he really believed it or he said it because Americans always say nice things. You know, the problem with Americans, you never know what they mean because they're always very complimentary. But I hope he really at least believed in what he's saying. It was nice to hear him. And they continue to invest in Israel. The second story became part of the Israeli canonic story, and this is what happened to me in no fault of me. I invested in 4 young Israeli kids in 1996. They came to me, they had an idea. One of them was my oldest son who never finished high school. And as I said yesterday, since sex-wise I'm male, but gender-wise I'm Jewish mother, I know that he didn't finish high school because something wrong, awful, I have done it to him when he was a kid. I couldn't put my finger what it was, but I know that it was me, you know, because of the guilt feeling. So I gave them a little bit of money, and after 19 months, they sold the first internet-wide instant messaging company to America Online. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And this created a whole series of investments of America Online in Israel. Later, the funds which and the funds that my son created and his friends were used by us to be deployed, or at least part of the funds, in many other startups. So from this sale to AOL, I think maybe 120 different startups have been created by me and my partner, and this is dynamic. The dynamic not much different than you see in the United States. Today we have about 6,000 startups, so I would say it's about the size of San Diego. If you look what's going on in Europe and you compare it to what's going on in Israel, it's quite amazing. You know, we are maybe, I don't know, 2% of the population over there. And as far as the intensity of the startup scene, we are, I guess, bigger than the whole European market together. Until a few years ago, we were #1 target of VC investments, American VC investments in the world. Now I think China is bigger than us, but still we are 7.8 million people. China is 1.4 billion people, so there is a slight difference. In 2005, by the way, I went with Prime Minister Olmert to China. We met with the Minister of Commerce and Industry. I suggested to him that we merge the two countries and we create the biggest country in the world with 1.4000078 billion people. Unfortunately, as happened to me many times, my vision exceeded, was ahead of the time, and they didn't accept this suggestion. They will regret it. But so right now they are bigger than us, but still on a per capita basis, we are not too bad. As I always say, at the case of the railroad, the railroad in Israel, as far as the length is concerned, we are much behind America or Canada, etc. But as far as the width is concerned, we have nothing to be ashamed of. And as a matter of fact, the width per 1 million people, we are about 25 centimeters, whereas you guys are less than half a centimeter per 1 million people, so you should go and walk about it and increase the width of your tracks. So in 2008, we had a world recession which hit the industry. Nevertheless, Israel, I think, came much better than most of the countries of the world. A lot of credit should go to our very capable governor of the Bank of Israel, Mr. Fisher. I just read in the press that he's one of the candidates to replace Mr. Bernanke, so we may export to you also a new kind of commodity. This is central bank governors. I'm not sure that this will be the case. His son, by the way, David, is the guy who is in charge of the revenues of Facebook, which is quite nice. I elaborated yesterday, I'm not going to repeat it, about the reason for all of it. As I said, I think it has to do with the culture. It starts with the culture. It's not an issue of technology. It's not an issue of education. Technology and education are very important, but they don't create the spirit of entrepreneurship. The spirit of entrepreneurship comes from home, comes from our mothers, and our mothers have a very special mechanism to drive it into us, which is based on guilt and panics. After all what we have done for you, asking for one Nobel Prize is really too much. And the guilt, the guilt is being manifested in many things. Since this is Qualcomm, I will tell you the telecom guilt. The telecom guilt is I was sitting next to the telephone all Shabbos long, and the telephone didn't ring, and I know it was you, the mother said to her son. So this is how we are being brought up, and then we go and try to prove to our mothers that we can accomplish. Regarding San Diego, it's really amazing what's going on here. This community here is active in two areas which are very important to the Israeli industry. This is telecom and biotech. I learned yesterday that an US-Israel Innovation Center was created in the university. I think that closer relations can be very beneficial for both sides. And I'm sure that we are going to see more and more relationships between the two communities. It's not going to become automatic. Delegations has to be done, joint events, etc. Sharona, who is not here, asked me to invite all of you to the Israel conference, which is going to take part in Los Angeles in May 30 and 31st. Maybe next year we should move it to San Diego. And another event which I want to mention is this conference which I mentioned, the DLD conference, which is a major digital conference which will happen in Tel Aviv in October 17 to the 20th. And I think by attending this kind of events and doing other events, we can foster the relations of San Diego, of the community here and the community in Israel. I would like again to thank the organizers of this meeting for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, and I hope to see you next year in Jerusalem. Thank you very much. And I have to, question, and I have to read you what is written here. Please repeat the question for those online. Thank you.
Okay, but we're actually going to invite people to come to the microphone so we could actually hear their questions. So you don't have to do that.
Okay. So if anybody has a question, please go ahead.
So come to the microphone to ask it.
Can you just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jeremy Glazer. Thank you for coming and speaking with us. I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit about what's happening in the financing of startup companies in Israel and anything we can learn about how you guys have been handling the sort of reduced financial environment for startups that we've been experiencing here in the U.S. Maybe we can learn from you from that. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I would like to suggest that the financial requirement, the Israeli companies, the Israeli entrepreneurs are much more frugal. That's the word. How you say stingy in a nicer way? Yeah. Frugal. So they are more frugal, and they kind of can go much farther with the same investment. The sources of investment of startups in Israel are like here. You have angels, sophisticated angel, or super angels as they are being called. You have what I call the occasional angels or wannabe angels. These are people with no experience, but they want to participate and they are looking to invest. You have VCs. You have Israeli VCs, which comes in a later stage. You have foreign VCs, which are either have offices in Israel or send people. Sequoia has offices in Israel. Bessemer has, Benchmark has, Axel have their office in London. Is serving Israel. Same is with Index. They send the people. There are tens and tens of VCs which are investing in Israeli companies. Then you have strategic investments like venture funds of companies like Intel. Qualcomm started a venture fund which is begun to be active in Israel. I mentioned Intel. So these are the main sources of investments, and you always see young people with glowing eyes are going around trying to get funding. Right now there is, of course, a frenzy of investing in mobile application like in the rest of the world. So you have a lot of people looking for funding in this space. In the last year, we have an epidemic of accelerators. I think we have maybe 20 or 30 accelerators which give very little funding, to companies to start. But somehow, and there is a lot of bootstrapping, by the way. People are sitting in their basement and just working on development. This, of course, can fund small application. It cannot fund companies which are doing major investment in infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. but it's a very, very active area. Some of the insurance company began also now to create some funding facility. The whole thing is very, very active and very, very, very developed. Yes, please. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Matthew Schatz, and I have a tech startup actually in mobile here in La Jolla. And my main question is, as an investor, how involved are you with the entrepreneurs?
Me, personally?
Yes, personally.
Okay, I went through transformation. In the beginning, I was very involved, and I gave them a lot of advices, and I tried to be very helpful. And then after a few years, I came to a very painful realization that if I invest in somebody because I think he knows what he's talking about, then why should I think that I know the business better than him? If I know the business better than him, I shouldn't invest in him. I should run the business, but I'm not running the business. So if I go and try to advise the guy, this means that my selection of the guy was poor. Also, I came to the realization that sometimes my advice were great, you know, they were excellent, and sometimes I drove them to such stupid places that it was a shame. And the whole thing was kind of very random. So in 2004, I totally changed my conviction, and I began to take a layback position. Now when I invest, I tell the guys, I give you the money, but now we start a friendly non-existence relationship. I don't bother you, you don't bother me. Come to me either when you finish the money and I have to write it off, and when you do, and you do exit. You know, I worship the VCs which can provide help on any conceivable topic they know, from biotechnology to nanotechnology to energy to internet to infrastructure to chips, etc. They are very capable and smart people. I'm an idiot, what can I tell you? So I give the money. This is something I know how to do, I guess. And then I don't provide help. I can tell you what kind of help I provide. If I arrange an event, I invite my investees so they can meet other people. I open the door for them, but that is. So if you are looking for help, I'm definitely the wrong address.
Thank you.
I don't know why you are applauding. I'm saying that I'm an idiot and everybody's applauding. I have to reconsider.
Hi, Brett Maxfield, entrepreneur. So you mentioned that Israel has a population of less than 8 million, and that doesn't seem like a very promising market for me. But I look at Israel as maybe a potential focus group and a brain trust, but I would imagine that most companies that start in Israel aren't looking to just sell to that market, but to be international. And maybe that's part of the dynamic that makes you guys so successful, is that you have a global vision. Comments?
Yeah, and the question is? No, that's okay.
What brings people to invest?
No, I fully agree with you.
If I wanted to go to New York City and said, look, I think you should invest in New York City, but we're only going to sell within Manhattan Island. We're not going to sell for the rest of the United States. You'd say you're crazy.
No, your observation is 100% correct. You say that the local market is not very promising. Let me rephrase it in the Israeli way. There is no local market. It doesn't exist. The whole business, the whole investment scene is based on export. And the reason why the high-tech is so resilient, I think, in Israel is because there is no local market, there is no protection, there is no selling to the government. Either you are good and you can export, or you perish. So the whole industry is based on export. And this is why this alliance between the Israeli startups and the large American companies, until now, and European companies, since like 3 or 4 years ago, they also began to march to Israel, is so critical. You see, I mentioned the company we sold to AOL. When we sold the company to AOL, we had $30,000 of sales, which is not a big number, let me tell you. After 3 years and 2001, this company sold for $158 million. And the reason is that when you look into the business, the advertising business is done by maybe 100 big buyers and 100 big sellers and 15 agencies who are getting the two together. So you need to team with the large American companies which bring the market to Israel. The reason why this synergy works so well, because we don't have what they have and they don't have what we have. So this is how the fact that there is no local market created the industry. Oddly enough, it became an advantage rather than disadvantage. Please, you have a wonderful dog.
Last two questions.
Last 2 questions, together, okay? I count until 3, and when I get to 3, the 2 of you are asking.
Hello, I'm Joy de Loren. I'm an inventor, and I'm recently finishing a product that is a rodent repeller. We have a problem with rodents in California, and rodents, rats and mice.
Good.
And, well, it's a big problem in our homes, our offices, in the grain bins, in the farms. Your question, please. I'm doing a little bit of a market study here. I'm wondering if you have that problem in Israel, this particular...
We have a cat problem.
You have a cat problem. Actually, I'm aware of that. I was there in '67. There were a lot of cats. But the cats aren't clearing them out, and especially in your homes, offices, and grain bins. And and this is a product that you don't use a trap. You don't pull mangled bodies out of a trap. There's no poison. Doesn't harm your pets, your kids, and the environment. And so I'm wondering, it actually trains them to stay out of the places you don't want them.
I have to tell you.
I'm wondering if you have that
Audrey,
problem.
it's my show, not your show. Let me answer this question.
I'm wondering if there's a market for it in Israel and who I would contact.
I tell you that I'm not an expert in the field, but I have to tell you a story, if I may.
Sure.
A guy is going to antiquity shop and see a status of a rat. And he asks the guy, how much is the statue? He tell him $10,000. He tell him, this is much too much. He say, buy it and try it, and when you leave the store, just leave it on the side curb. So you take the statue of the rat, you put it on the side curb, and the rat begin to go. And as the rat goes, many rats are coming from all kinds of holes of the ground and follow the rats, and then the rats go to the river and jump to the river, and all the rats are jumping. The guy is running hysterical to the shop. And the seller tell him, do you want to give me back the rat? He say, no, no, do you have a statue of a lawyer? Yes, please.
Well,
thank you.
I just want to know who I would contact in Israel for this product.
I really, what can I tell you? It's out of my competent.
Thank you.
Out of my competent area. I'm sorry I cannot help you, but you have a wonderful dog.
Thank you. Oh, that's also one of my inventions.
Good. Please.
Hi, Gabriella Dow with Startup Circle, and I do want to thank Audrey for putting such an incredible event together. I love the example that you gave of the startup founders wanting to find a place to hang out. And so they just found an old warehouse, I think you mentioned. And we're doing that here in San Diego also, finding different places to hang out and really establishing our community. So as a world traveler and having spent the last few days here in San Diego, I just wanted to get your observations of what the San Diego startup scene is like and any words of advice, encouragement, and what you might leave us with.
Look, I was here only 24 hours, and you want me to give you advice. This will be really, you know, I was a consultant for the World Bank. It reminds me I work in the World Bank. You come to a place that you don't know anything about, and you give very profound advices. It looked to me that you guys are doing very, very well, even without us. I cannot understand how it happened, but it seems that you were able to crack the code somehow on your own. And I just hope that we will have more collaboration. I can tell you one thing about San Diego, if I may. I have a very strong theory which has to do with the Mediterranean. If you look around the rim of the Mediterranean, you will see that all the cities which are on the rim of the Mediterranean, you know, South Italy, South France, South Greece, Turkey, Tel Aviv, Morocco, the people are very happy. You know, instead of working, they are dancing and eating, and they have very, very pleasant mood because of the color of the sky. This blue sky has a magic on the well-being of the people. It makes them feel good, other than the very dark, gray sky of the northern places. And San Diego is blessed to have this kind of sky. So my only recommendation will be to work a little bit less and to enjoy life and to eat well and dance. And thank you very much.
You're brilliant. Thank you all so much for coming today. If you haven't read Startup Nation, the story of Israel's economic miracle, Yossi and Dr. Resnick touched a little bit about what's inside the culture, an Israeli culture, that has created this incredible startup success story. I encourage you to read the book. You will not be able to put it down. You will truly learn some of the essence of the Israeli innovation spirit that you can incorporate into your daily life, whether you are here part of Qualcomm or you're running your own startup. So thank you all for coming today, being a part of the Israel Startup Nation series. Thank you Startup Circle for sponsoring us, and thank you Qualcomm for hosting, and thank you Yossi for still being funny, even though I told you not to.